Hello friends, my name is Madhur Bajaj. Today I am going to discuss on how to start an international call center. So I will be discussing the legal requirement, the terms and conditions, the technology consideration. Then I'll be discussing the guidelines on setting up a cloud-based call center, key steps and decisions, as well as I'll be setting up the discussion on regulations or best practices and international compliance, as well as I'm going to discuss on quality assurance guidelines. So to begin with, I will be discussing the legal requirement. Essential legal requirement for domestic or international call center. Now we'll be discussing on the factors of the registration as a company or LLP. So I'll be discussing the documents for OSP registration or license. First one is certification of incorporation of a company or of the LLP you have registered. Then you need MOA, then you need AOA, then you need the list of directors, okay, then you need the list of shareholders as well as shareholding pattern. Then the important thing is you would need a network diagram of how you are using or you're planning to use the telecom resources. Then you would need a note specifying the type of OSP you are trying to open. For example, explanation about your international call center in 50 words or more. Then it is important to have a board resolution authorizing an authorized expert to file the application. Then it's very important to have the online application to DOT via Saral Sanchar portal. Then to discuss further, registration is actually location specific. Change in location will actually require amendment in the original registration. For multiple sites, registration must be done for one site at a time. Now we will discuss the validity. 20 years and extensible by 10 years at a time on approval by DOT. The OSP cannot transfer this registration nor enter into any agreement for subleasing or partnership with any kind of third party. The OSP must actually furnish documents, accounts, estimate, returns, reports or other information when required by DOT, including annual returns within 6 months of completion of a financial year. Now let us discuss the terms and conditions. The OSP shall take telecom resources from an authorized TSP only. The TSP shall provide resources to the OSP after examining the network diagram of the proposed network and after ensuring its bona fide use. OSP must submit a copy of the approved network diagram with VTM cell for record and verification. Both the TSP and OSP shall be responsible as per their license or registration respectively towards any violation of the terms and condition in the use of telecom resources. The OSP must have internet connectivity from the authorized ISP. The OSP can share the telecom bandwidth with other activities of the same company or group of companies, ensuring a logical separation between the telecom resources for OSP and other activities. There shall be no voice or non-voice traffic flow between them. Interconnectivity of the international OSP with domestic OSP is not permitted. Now, I will be discussing the terms and condition for domestic OSP. The OSP can terminate PSTN or PLMN connection with outgoing facility on the same EPBX, provided that such lines be used for making calls through normal NLD network only and not bypassed the licensed NLDO jurisdiction. They may have other connectivity, for example, lease circuit and virtual private network at the same center. However, there shall not be any call flow between these PSTN lines and lease lines. Interconnectivity of two or more domestic OSP centers of the same company or group of companies is permitted. Domestic OSP is permitted to use integrated services digital network ISDN connections only for the purpose of backup of domestic lease circuit. DoT reserves the right to carry out audits and, in case of any violation, reserves the right to take punitive action, including forfeiture of the security deposit or the cancellation of the registration. Now, I am going to discuss the terms and condition for international OSP. No PSTN connectivity shall be permitted to the international OSP at the Indian end. PSTN connectivity on foreign end is permitted, having facility of both inbound and outbound calls. Interconnection of two or more international OSP of the same company or the group companies is permitted, with intimation to DoT or VTN cell within 15 days of such interconnection. Now, I will be discussing the important guidelines on sharing infrastructure between domestic and international OSP. Option 1. Separate and independent EPBX to be used for international and domestic OSP centers with sharing of same operator position. Interconnectivity is not permitted. OSP shall ensure that only one call shall be offered to the operator position at a time, be it domestic or international, incoming or outgoing. No voice traffic shall flow between the domestic and international OSP centers or cause bypass of the network of the authorized TSP. OSP shall ensure that the system logs are tamper-proof, preserved at least for 6 months and available for inspection. Now I'll be discussing the option 2. International and domestic OSP centers to share the common EPBX with logical partitioning. Interconnectivity is not permitted. The company shall submit a certificate from the vendors of the equipment that the software is capable of logically bifurcating to the common infrastructure into two separate and independent environments for the domestic OSP and international OSP centers. The company shall ensure the complete logical separation between the activities of the domestic and international application. No voice traffic shall flow between the domestic and international OSP centers or cause bypass of the network of the authorized TSP. OSP shall ensure that the system logs are tamper-proof, reserved for at least 6 months and available for inspection. Sharing of the infrastructure by domestic OSP and international OSP requires prior written approval and may be granted on the fulfillment of the following conditions. The domestic OSP center and international OSP center shall belong to the same company. The OSP shall have call center having at least 50 seats. The OSP shall be responsible for any kind of violation of the terms and conditions of OSP registration by anyone, including but not limited to its employees. This registration shall be valid for a period of 3 years, extensible by 3 years at a time. Now I'll discuss the two options. Option 1. The company shall submit a security deposit in the form of a bank guarantee in the specified format for rupees 50 lakhs. Now I'll be discussing the option 2. The company shall submit a security deposit in the form of a bank guarantee in the specified format for rupees 1 crore. Now I am going to discuss the technology consideration. Now let's discuss the technology requirement from the two perspectives. One from the inbound call center and next is from the outbound call center. Now I'll talk about the inbound call center. Calls from customers over PSTN or PLMN network are collected at a location over a publicized contact number. This call is then carried by the OSP using the resources obtained from an authorized TSP to the designated location of the OSP from where service is provided to the customers. Now let us discuss the technology requirement from the perspective of outbound call center. The call is generated by an agent from the OSP center, which is then taken to the customer using separate PSTN resource obtained for this purpose from a TSP. The telecom resources provided by TSP include telephone connectivity, internet bandwidth, point-to-point domestic lease lines using MPLS or SDH or VSAT by NLD and UAS providers for domestic OSP and point-to-point international lease lines using MPLS services or IPLC provided by ILD providers for international OSP. OSP setup requires placing calls, internal as well as external, answering them and distributing the calls to the other users. For this purpose, OSP utilize APBX for calls within or outside OSP center. Now, I will be discussing the technology advancement to move further. IP PBX. PABX working on IP, that is Internet Protocol based technology. It can be provided through dedicated hardware or emulated using software over servers. Now, I'll be discussing the advantages. It employs converged data and voice network, internet, internet access, VoIP communications, and traditional telephone communications are all possible using a single line to each other. This provides flexibility as an enterprise grows and can also reduce long-term operation and maintenance cost. Like a traditional EPBX, an IP PABX is owned by the enterprise. Similar to EPBX, IP PABX can also be deployed in on-premise or distributed architecture including virtual or cloud PABX. I am discussing the typical domestic call center setup, which is owned centralized IP PBX. See, this is the toll-free number. Okay, then you have a toll number over here. This is the PSTN service provider. Okay, now see, this is example OBP owned centralized IP PBX. Okay, now this is call center application servers. Initially you will have call recording, then reporting, then CTI, then IVR. Then here comes the domestic VPN network, then here comes the local CDR server, then here comes the operator. Okay, let's say for example ABC or anyone. Okay, he is sitting at location A, then here comes the operator ABC, somebody else. Okay, is sitting at location B, and here comes the operator ABC or anybody else is sitting at location C. Okay, so this is the actual setup of a domestic call center. Now I am going to discuss the typical international call center having centralized IP PBX in India. See, initially you will have a toll-free number, right? Then you will have a toll number that goes to global PSTN, right? Okay, then here you will have global MPLS. Okay, this goes outside India. Yeah, then okay, you will have centralized IP PBX. Okay, you will have local CDR, then you have OSP data center in India, then you have domestic VPN network. Okay, right? Then you actually have the call center application servers. For example, you have call recording, then you have reporting, then you have CTI, then you have IVR. And last mile, from an authorized SIP. Okay, then you also have a last mile from authorized SIP. Okay, where operator ABC is there from location A, then operator ABC is there from location B, then you'll also have operator ABC from location R. Okay, so this is the typical international call center setup having the centralized IPPBX India. Now I'll be discussing the technology advancement. The hosted contact center, a network based contact center service where the service provider hosts the contact center infrastructure and leases out functionalities, applications, and features to end user in the form of SaaS. Hosted or cloud PABX. The business simply connects IP phone or desktop or mobile soft phone to their network, which then connects via IP to the hosted provider who delivers all of the PABX features directly to the business from the cloud. This centralized and professionally managed service offloads IT responsibility from the business while delivering advanced telecommunication services. The service is provided by a lease agreement, and the provider can, in some configuration, use the same switching equipment to service the multiple hosted PABX customers. It is possible to get hosted PABX services that include feature sets from minimal functionality to advanced feature combination. Hosted PABX allows a single number for the entire company despite it being geographically distributed. It allows scalability in case company's employee base grows, more lines can be demanded, and at the same time, if it reduces, the lines can be withdrawn. This is the example of hosted or cloud-based call center. So this is the basic architecture of cloud telephony. So I'm giving an example of Ozontel system. They are having this centralized server or TR, then it goes to telephone server where you have application server, IVR server, you have a PRI card, you have CTI, then you have SIP trunk, and you have recording services, okay, which is actually maintained by your service provider. This is the example of feature rich cloud based call center. See, this is the cloud agent, okay, in a cloud based contact center. So I'm giving you an example by Ozontel. Calls are routed to any of the free agent located anywhere. Okay. Here the best part is you have zero hardware on site. See, here you have three agents, right? Okay. One is the call center agent, one call center agent 2 who are sitting in the office, then you have a home agent. So what are the features of a cloud agent? You have automatic call distribution, you have skill based routing, then you have call recordings which is optional, you have call queues, then you have voicemail, then you have IVRS based routing, then you have graphical dashboards, then you have peak load analysis, then you have dedicated report portal, then you have online administration, then you have call transfers, okay, which is actually done online, then you have CRM integration for iPops. Now we will be discussing the guidelines on how to set up a cloud-based call center. What are the key steps and decision? If you are looking to set up a cloud-based call center, okay, so first you need to consider the business goal, okay, that is like lead generation, sales, or customer service. Then you have either call center from the inbound perspective, outbound perspective, or blended perspective. You have to consider the operational parameters and constraints. It can be physical or hybrid or virtual. It can be single or multiple location. You can have in-house agents or remote agents. Then either you can have existing hardware or you can have budgets for that, or either ways you need upgradation or integration. Now I will be discussing on establishing the team. To establish a team, you need to first identify the skill set, then languages, training, and key performance indicators. Now, when you're looking to have the virtual call center setup, you need to consider the following factors. One is IVR menu option, then self-service level, then after hours or shift strategy, then skill group, then ACD logic, then CRM integration, then CKey agents, then contact data formats, then auto dialer type, then regulatory guidelines, then feedback mechanism, then CSAT metrics. Now I will be discussing the regulation, best practices, and international compliance. Now let's discuss the regulation or best practices for outbound calls. TRAI and OFCOM regulations for outbound call centers. To achieve improved operational efficiencies, outbound call centers deploy predictive dialing. Here are some of the best practices. If the calls are not answered, they should not be terminated before 15 seconds. When the number of calls connected exceeds the number of available agents, the dialer drops the call automatically. The abandoned call rate should not be more than 3% of live call calculated per campaign over a period of 24 hours. In event of abandoned call, a brief recorded message should be played within 2 seconds after the call has been picked up, including the key information such as company information on whose behalf the call was made. When an abandoned call has been made to a particular number, any repeat calls to that number in the following 72 hours may only be made with the guaranteed presence of a live agent. For each outbound call, the CLI must be presented, and there should be a provision for return calls on that CLI as well. For telemarketing process, calls made in particular telecom circle should be originated from that telecom circle PSTN only, and only designated series number should be used. In case of cloud infrastructure of a call center, the call center should be hosted within India. VoIP and PSTN should not be mixed or terminated on same device or the solution in such a manner that it bypasses toll. The domestic service providers and the international service providers need to be completely separated with no communication between the two. Additionally, the international service providers can't access the domestic PSTN network. As per regulation within India, call centers are not permitted to make the domestic calls on VoIP, that is, voice over internet. Also, routing of voice through leased lines is not permitted due to the reason that it may bypass tolls and undermine the revenues for telephony service providers. However, internal communication within organization is permitted with using VoIP with necessary network diagrams being approved from regulatory authority, but there should not be any interconnection from VoIP to PSTN or PSTN to VoIP. Now, let us discuss the compliance for international market. US or Euro compliance acts that international call centers should be aware of call monitoring consent. Federal laws and most state laws require that at least one party is aware a call is being recorded and consents to it. And several states require that all parties be notified. So, follow the strict requirements to assure 100% compliance. On incoming calls, all callers should receive notice before being connected with an agent, and on outgoing calls, the required wording should be part of the agent script. Fair debt collection practice. This prohibits the use of abusive or threatening language or unfair debt collection practices. This act applies to contact center that collect personal consumer debt including credit card payments, utility payments, cell phone bill and late auto loan payments. It does not include business debt. Do not call registry. Do not call registry gives consumer a way to opt out of telemarketing calls by registering their phone numbers online. Contact centers can access the do not call registry online. Failures to comply can result in fine of over $40,000. Now, let us discuss the GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation, applies to any business that accepts and stores information for EU residents, even if the business is not located in Europe. The business of the call center or the purpose of the GDPR is to grant ownership of sensitive information to the individual. They can request all stored data and for it to be erased. Businesses needs to have a way to provide requested information to the individual and be able to delete it quickly to remain in the compliance. To move further for discussing the compliance for international market, I'll be discussing the Truth in Lending Act. Contact centers must disclose information about terms, interest rate and late fees to customers. The Dodd-Frank Act. Contact centers must record all phone conversation and save them with date and time stamp in a searchable format. Sarbanes-Oxley Act. This act was passed after scandal like Enron requires businesses implement a system to assure recorded calls that cannot be changed or deleted prior to the end of mandated time frame. Now I'll discuss about HIPAA. This act applies to contact centers and businesses storing personally identifiable health information. Businesses must take steps to restrict the flow of personal health information and prevent it from being shared with other parties. Now, I'll discuss about PSI or DSS. It can also be called as PCI or DSS. Okay? So, the payment card industry data security standard was established in 2006 by 5 major credit card companies. It outlines a set of standard contact center that must abide by if they want to be able to process credit card payments, including limitations on how data is stored. Equal Credit Opportunity Act, the ECOA prohibits businesses from using race, age, color, religion, gender, and marital status to determine if you qualify for loans or credit. Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act. This act requires contact center to share the information sharing practices with borrowers, giving them the option to opt out. In addition, it requires that businesses must maintain written documentation of their security protocol. Now, I will be discussing the quality assurance guidelines. You need to find out where the organization stands. Consider putting a short survey at the end of call center interaction to give customers the chance to rank their customer service experience. This gives easy access to customer feedback without requiring widespread call monitoring. You need to consider using external benchmarking to determine how your agent performance compares to other call centers. This is best accomplished by a third party quality assurance consultant who can remain impartial and objective. You need to decide what needs to be improved and how improvement will be measured. Focus on the business process and customer service improvement that is needed, which is based on the information gleaned from the customer feedback and external benchmarking. You need to select relevant KPIs and set reasonable dynamic goals and work towards them using the insights provided by quality assurance. You need to monitor calls efficiently and effectively. The program should give managers the insight they need to best coach their frontline agents, driving quantifiable improvements. It is important to listen to calls that rank as outliers. Focus on the call that stray the furthest from average in any direction. This includes calls that went very well, very poorly, were quite short or quite long, and that involve multiple transfers or multiple contacts from the customer. The successful call can serve as training tool, while the unsuccessful one can help tailor very necessary coaching. It is very important to listen to the entire call. While it could very well be a single sentence that is the cause of an issue on a call, or a matter of seconds in a 10-minute interaction, it's only fair to agent that a call be evaluated after it is listened to in its entirety. Bits and pieces being taken out of context to serve as example of wrongdoing will undermine confidence in the process. Now let us discuss the handling the humans part. As you are already aware, call center quality assurance shouldn't exist in a vacuum. It should complement training and coaching processes while giving agents control over their own performance, including their earning potential and bonuses. It is very important to hire the right people and train them. A big part of a call center success is having the right people on the team. Managers who excel at coaching and frontline agents that are willing and eager to learn and improve for the sake of their careers and the sake of the company. The agent training process should also be robust and include real life example of both excellent and not so excellent interaction. Training should also focus on high yield behaviors like script adherence, net promoter score technique, and same result in lower average handling time. These behaviors should be further reinforced by regular coaching or feedback session. It is important that we provide top-notch script. Agent need to be given all available tools for customer interaction success, and that begins with the script they are trained to work from. Significant time and money should be spent on developing script as well as tweaking them as calls are monitored and issues become evident. You need to involve frontline agent in quality assurance. You need to take the time to inform agents about quality assurance. Help them embrace it instead of fear it, and show them how it can give them control over their own performance through tools like real time analytics and performance benchmarking available on their personal dashboard. You need to focus on the positives as well as the negatives. If agents only ever hear corrective feedback, there will be a sense of dread attached to the entire process. With actionable insight, managers should reward agents for good performance as well as temper corrective feedback with an accompanying focus on an agent positive. You need to give agents the opportunity to dispute their evaluation. It is very important to formalize a process in which agents can register their disagreement with an evaluation and receive a secondary evaluation from another individual. It is very important to remove conflict from the evaluation process and gives agent an increased sense of power. Thank you very much for your valuable time. Have a good day. Bye bye.